What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Rock of Truth podcast. Sponsored by Danco Transmission and Auto Care. That's all I got to say, man. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Sponsored
by Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Yeah, lots changed since we talked a couple days ago, Joe. Since a week ago, shit's kind of hit the fan a little bit.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you two aren't wearing your Badger helmets right now, like going nuts with the W. You know, like Coach Fickell and Amy and the whole family throwing up the W. I'm surprised that's not going on right now, but we'll get to that.
You're the one not wearing any Bearcat gear.
I came from a rehearsal dinner because here, and I'll tell the fans something real quick. I was at a rehearsal dinner, okay, actually supporting a UC baseball coach. Actually, he's getting married tomorrow. Shout out Lee Sponseller. But I was at a rehearsal dinner, and a lot of, former Bearcats, current Bearcats were there having some conversations, and I was being encouraged, that I would be the voice of Bearcat Nation tonight on this podcast, and I would be the voice of reason for the fans, the great fans of this city. That I love and that I feel like I'm one of. And I thought I needed to be here tonight to go toe-to-toe with two great men, great former players, but we might just have some disagreements tonight. So I felt like I needed to be here and put on for my city. I never got to wear the jersey or wear the gear, but tonight I feel like I'm wearing the helmet. Like I'm running out of the tunnel in Nippert Stadium taking on you two. And I feel like you two you got Bucky the Badger on your back screen. Like I know what this is about tonight, and I'm ready to put on for my city. So I'm here.
You've thrown up the W and referenced the mascot name 2 minutes in. I think you're just getting a little jealous, or I think you're the true Badger over there, Joe.
You both know that's not true. Let me honestly, like, former players, like, seriously, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I mean, like, both of you, I want to hear your thoughts on the hire. I mean, I'm sure you guys are happy for your former coach. I'm not gonna, obviously I'm gonna have a different perspective because I'm a fan. You guys are players, but I just want to hear, as former players, like, how you feeling. I know Royer was upset the other night. I don't really feel like you two are as upset as he was, but I just want you guys to talk about it. Sopko, you've coached and played for him, so I'd like to hear both your thoughts.
Yeah. I think it sucks. I mean, I was completely caught off guard, to be completely honest. It was something that happened so fast. I feel like, Pete Thamel or whoever mentioned it. Somebody put it out there at like 10 a.m. and I felt like by noon it was like, all right, he's gone. And I saw something. I was like, yeah, whatever. His name always pops up. He's the hottest name. I didn't expect him to go. And then, next thing you know, I feel like it happened real quick. And it sucks. It's like, obviously he's a great coach and he's built an incredible program. And, Statty and I have been lucky enough to play under him and learn from him. I was lucky enough to coach under him and I learned a lot. And yeah, it sucks. But like, he's got to do what he's got to do at the end of the day. I've seen a lot of people like mad at him and going after him and, acting. I just think at the end of the day, he's got to do what he feels like is best for him and his family. And he felt like going to Wisconsin was the best move for him. And I'm not mad at him for that. Again, like, it sucks, but I'm not, upset in that aspect that, he's got to do what he's got to do. And I don't keep saying that, but like, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah. Jake, I think you hit that, hit on the head. Yeah, like you said, very fortunate to play for him. It does suck. Hate to see him leave. But I think, when you think of Luke Fickell, you think about running the football, you think about a tough playing defense. And that's something that I know you don't want to do that, make a decision based off a conference, but he's a Big Ten coach. You kind of got that philosophy under him. Year one, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like, I felt okay going into those games when we played like Michigan, for example, we were able to kind of battle with him a little up front just because of his philosophies and his schemes. So I think he's a good fit for that conference. I think he'll do well there, but at the end of the day, it sucks. Never want to see, Cincinnati, just a great program, losing another great coach again. So.
We don't really know. I've heard different things of why he left and whatnot, and there's a lot of different like speculation and whatnot, and it's tough. And I think we all know that Ohio State for him is probably the end game. I think that's kind of everybody's always felt like. I think that's his dream job, right? I just feel like that's kind of what everybody seems to think, and he's not going to say that out loud, and I've never heard him say that out loud. But I just feel like, everybody, Ohio State's a huge program. He's a legend there as a player. He obviously coached there forever, and I think Ohio State where he wants to end up. And, at some point he's going to try to get there. And maybe he feels like going to Wisconsin and coaching back in the Big Ten. And that's the best way to get back to Ohio State. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Ohio State. Maybe he wants to coach at Wisconsin for the next 30 years and then retire and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've seen people like upset and kind of like coming at him, like, how could you do this and all this stuff. And I don't know how fans, I understand they're upset and they're mad and that he's gone, but like, what is he like? He came here. He's the winningest coach of all time. He did it really fast. He built a program, an incredible program. He took us to a college football playoff. I don't think we'd be going to the Big 12 if he wasn't here. I mean, he did a lot for this program. And I think to try to like come at him as he's leaving, I think is kind of bullshit, to be honest. That's kind of the only thing that's upset me that I've seen is people trying to come after him for leaving. And I understand why they're upset. I'm upset too, but don't act like, I mean, what he didn't come in and do an incredible job and kind of, build a program that was really down before he took over. Am I wrong in saying that, Joe?
No, I not really. I don't think you're completely wrong in saying that. I do think that, like, I think we've talked about this enough over the week via text, right? Like, I think first off, Statty makes great points. He is a good fit at Wisconsin, right? Like, big offensive lineman, running the football. I think it's probably easier to recruit great offensive linemen at Wisconsin than it is Cincinnati just because of the history of it. I think same way here. I think it's easy, starting to become easier to recruit great defensive backs and tight ends, right? Because you can go over this long list of history of players that succeed at these positions. But Wisconsin's known for great running backs, great offensive linemen. That's how he likes to play. Physical defense, right? Like, I think it's a good fit. I agree with Statty. I also agree with you. Like, I think ultimately he is a big reason we're in the Big 12, right? So we can thank him for that. He's a big reason we're in the Big 12, and he's also a huge reason we're getting an indoor practice facility. You didn't even mention that. So we could go on and on things we are thankful for him doing. I think for me, like, I'm thankful for those things, but I'm also now like to the point where it's different for you guys, right? Because you played for the guy, so you're going to root for him to have success. That's okay. I'm not. Like, I'm going to root against Wisconsin for 12 games next year. Like, that's just how I'm like, and I'm sure a lot of fans are going to do the same thing as me. Like, I'm not going to root for the guy to succeed. I didn't root for Brian Kelly to succeed. I didn't root for Butch Jones to succeed. I didn't root for Mark D'Antoni to succeed. And I'm not going to root for Luke Fickell to succeed either. And that's just how I see it from a fan's perspective, which is different from your guys' perspective. And I think ultimately also, like, to me, it feels and looks the same as any other coach. I know he stayed longer, and I think props to him. He turned down a lot of jobs, but like him going to Wisconsin felt like kind of like a stab in the back almost. And I get he fits the style. Like, Statty makes a great point. But from my perspective and from a lot of people's perspective, I think he could do great at Wisconsin, but I don't think he's going to win championships at Wisconsin. Like, he's not going to, like, I'm sorry, Ohio State recruits a different brand of athlete. Michigan recruits a different brand of athlete. Lincoln Riley's coming to town to recruit a different brand of athlete. Like, he's competing with all three of those. And we can also add in James Franklin and Penn State and Chip Kelly and UCLA. Like those 5 right there, that's going to be tough for him to beat all 5 of those and win Big Ten championships. Now, I know the playoffs expanding, which I think helps him, but he still has to beat a few of those teams every year to get there, to be able to get like one of those bids that's not an automatic bid, if that makes sense. That's kind of where my heart's at. I don't think it's a lateral move. I think there's a lot of positives at Wisconsin. He's going to get paid more. He loves the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten conference is going to be above the Big 12 conference when it comes to media rights and money, and I think that's important. I think they're going to be able to kind of be ahead of us right now on NIL and some of the facility stuff. So I get that's important to him. I think he saw the writing on the wall going into the Big 12. And I think he kind of saw 7-5, 6-6 next year, maybe for the next few years. And I think he just jumped ship knowing that as well. So I think there's a bunch of different factors, but all those factors, yeah, like I think it's frustrating for someone who's a lifelong loyal fan of the university who goes to every game and has been there from his 4-8 season to his undefeated season to this last season. So that's kind of where my heart's at right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then that's like, as a fan, like I understand why that is frustrating. And I get where you're coming from. Like I'm a Bearcat. I was a Bearcat before Luke Fickell ever showed up. I wasn't recruited by that staff. I came here when Tuberville. So I didn't come here, under that staff. I was a Bearcat before they showed up. I'm always going to be a Bearcat. That's, where my loyalty is. But, opposite of you, I hope, Wisconsin wins the Big Ten every single year because, that's a guy that I really respect in a lot of different ways. So like, I'm always going to root for him. And the guys that I had a good relationship that, I worked under, was coached by. So I get it. I wish he was coaching at UC. I wish he was at UC for forever, in a perfect world, that's what it would be. But, at the end of the day, he felt like UC wasn't the best fit anymore for him and his family, whether it was NIL, whether it was, everything that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him for leaving. If that's what he felt like was the best thing for him, then, it is what it is. I'm not the one to tell him if that's right or wrong.
See, but I see it like, so I see it through your guys' lens, like where I disagree with you guys because I'm a fan. I also understand where you guys are coming from. Like, and I don't know if I've really acknowledged that in our text this week. So I think I've just been mostly being sarcastic and being, just a jerk to both of you about stuff like all week just because I'm pissed about it. But like when Mick left for UCLA, like I had really good friends that worked under Mick on his staff. I had cousins that worked in the building that he treated with like the greatest respect and like that loved him. And I think he loved this place and he was here for 14 years. And maybe I might be a little bit too much, but like I know a lot of fans couldn't stand Mick and rooted against him when he went to UCLA. And I think there was a lot of other factors that played into why he left that people don't really know or understand. But I think ultimately like that led me to have a softer heart and kind of root for Mick that year he was in the NCAA tournament when he was making that Final Four run. Because I was kind of like, screw these fans that don't think this guy's a good coach. Like he's one hell of a coach, right? Like, so I kind of had that mindset going on, but I think I understand I know where you guys are coming from. You played for him. He coached you guys. He led you guys, right? Like there was different things he did along the way that touched your guys' hearts. And like, so you guys have a personal relationship with him. It's different for you guys than it is for me. Like, I don't know the guy. So I'm just coming from a fan standpoint. Now, Kirby here in the comment section, he makes a great point, and I think we need to talk about this. He said it isn't him leaving. It's the reports he was already considering it midway through the year after preaching loyalty and team for 6 years. He jumped ship right before we hit the big leagues. I definitely think there's something to that. Now, I don't know where your guys' thoughts are on that, but just the rumors of him interviewing after the ECU game, sending Amy up there, the whole interviews of all this time, him being like, I live under a rock. I don't know what's going on. Like, that was kind of a load of crap, right? And I honestly believed it for the longest time because I really did feel like he was pretty out of it for the most part, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe I have no idea. And maybe Wisconsin was just a job he kind of fell in love with. But where are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think how do I sound? Do I sound a little bit better? I think
no, you sound like shit.
I can understand you though.
But all right. Sorry.
What's up? Are you on your laptop?
I don't know what I'm doing. You guys
I-
carry.
Dude, I can hear him though. Like, at least say your point and then get on your phone or something.
I'll be back.
Okay. All right.
I guess to cues me up for it. The reports about him, like the ECU stuff, is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
because listen, this is what he did. Okay, and it's truth, right? He was here. Okay, he's in the midst of. I mean, at that point, they're still in the midst of go win an AAC championship. Like everything's in front of them. Everything's in front of them, right? They can still get to a New Year's Six bowl, all that kind of stuff. After the ECU game, he's supposedly, I don't know if it was him. I know Amy went to Wisconsin to check it out. I know he'd been on calls with the AD. I know he was doing like behind the scene interviews and things like that. That's just factual of what was happening. And I think he was still prepared for the Tulane game. I felt like that team kind of played this way the whole year. I don't think that necessarily played into the Tulane loss. I'm not going to blame the guy and act like that and be dumb. But I do think throughout the year, his heart was not in it in the same way that it was in years past. And that's probably because he didn't get the Notre Dame job and probably because of last year. But hard for me as a Bearcat fan, for me to feel sorry for him. I felt like he was kind of just, I don't know if this sounds right, but he was kind of like, woe is me attitude because he got us the playoff last year and he probably never expected that. So for me, that's hard to take. Like as a Bearcat fan who loves this university, like I felt like that's kind of how he played it and went about it. And then he was like, at this point, I need to get to the next job as soon as possible. Right. So I don't know what you think about that, but that kind of felt like different from what he's talked about his whole entire time here.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. And it's hard. Like he, obviously he hears like the rumors, like last year his name was the hottest name and it was going to be the hottest name this year. So I'm sure he hears the rumors and I don't think he plays too much into it, but like, obviously like he knows what's going on and whatnot. I think that the timing thing kind of stinks. The ECU thing. But I mean, I think to be like, to think that he wasn't prepared or like wasn't like didn't give a shit about what was going on in the field because these interviews were going on in the background. I think it's complete bullshit. For anybody to say that he was like checked out and they're not in the building, then like quite frankly, I don't think anybody has a right to say that. Like I asked like players, I asked people in the building, like, did you like even have any idea that was going on? Like, did anything feel like something was up? And everybody was like, no. So it wasn't like it was like some like, whispering going around, like there's a distraction, like what's going on with Coach Fickell. Like everybody I've talked to is just like, oh, we like didn't really know, which I think that's what you would rather hear, right? Than people being like, something weird was going on, like the vibes were off or anything like that. Like I would be extremely shocked if he wasn't coming prepared every single day to do his job and get them and put them in the best position to win football games. So I think, to be like, yeah, he was checked out. I think we lose to Tulane, whether, Fickell was the coach or, Staddy was the coach. I just think that they were kind of like the better team. I don't think, the fact that he interviewed at Wisconsin a couple weeks ago had any effect on what happened out on the field.
I will say this, okay, and I've said this all year. Outside of Arkansas, there was not a team we played that was more talented on paper than we were. So, like, maybe they're the better team. I know there's a difference between talent and how good your team is. I get that. And I think it was obviously the year was kind of tough overall. I think losing so many starters to the NFL, and obviously that was a huge accomplishment, but then you have to obviously reload that entire roster. But I don't think Tulane was more talented. But I do agree with you that he was not checked out. I'm sure he was coaching his butt off still, but obviously there was definitely some distractions going on for him and his family as well. I think that plays in for any normal human being.
Yeah. Obviously you wish that like if these conversations were to be happening, that they started, after the Tulane game, like maybe Wisconsin reaches out to him after the fact, but that's just, that's not how that works, right? Like you've switched jobs before. Like you don't just like leave your job not knowing for another job, like you have to kind of have that process. And like, I'm not saying it's like the right way to go about it is to interview and you're, at a place and whatnot, but that's just kind of how it works. Like, he's a football coach, but like, you know, if I was going to go take another job somewhere else, like I'd probably, you know, do an interview or two before I just leave where I'm at. You know what I mean? It's just, but he's a college football coach, so it's like blown up into. But I get it. Like, I understand why that you know pisses people off, but like that happens every single day in everyday life for everybody else.
Does do you guys think that the transfer portal with the date of that opening, do you think that plays an effect with not just Coach Fick, but just any college coaches moving forward? Or because you know things happen fast, and obviously you guys talk about, you know, he could have had conversations for weeks, could have not had, but just aside from Fick, just across college football, how much does that date of when that transfer portal is like opens and is available to, you know, let me hurry up and get my next big job, kind of in a quick manner.
They need to hire a guy by Sunday.
Exactly. It's huge.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he was gone. And that's why we'll probably hire somebody by Sunday, just because, you know, you're given 2 weeks to try to put together a recruiting class and find, you know, guys from the portal. And if a coach comes in, he wants to run a completely different offense or something like that. You know, you got to fit the guys you got to find guys real quick that fit that system. So it's a really hard spot to be in. And that's why, you know, you don't have all day to interview everybody and do 3 rounds of interviews and stuff like that. Like, you got to hop on this shit quick, just because there's these timelines that you got to deal with.
Yeah. See, my problem right now is, and I'll be honest, like, I do think they had an idea he was leaving, like the athletics department. Like, and from what I've heard from people is that they at least had some sort of understanding that he was looking at Wisconsin. I don't think they thought he was going to necessarily take the job. I think it's the same thing you talked about earlier, Soppy. Like, Pete Thamel tweets out that tweet. We've seen that tweet 50 times now. So Wisconsin, I think that's also it. Like, Wisconsin, I kind of laughed because I was like, we'll see. Right. And then I went to basketball practice and I got out 2 hours later and it was a done deal. I had like 100 texts on my phone from different people. I had Danco Joe calling me. You know, I had all kinds of stuff going on. Okay. But I think also, like, ultimately you have to, as an athletic director, you have to have some sort of list, right? Like, and I know when you have a head coach who's been sought out the last 5 years, you have to constantly, in my opinion, keep a list. So I'm worried. Like, I'm sure John Cunningham had a list. He has to have had one. I don't know who you guys kind of see as people you'd want to take the job. I know you guys are Gino guys. I know you guys are going to give me your whole sales pitch and Bearcat Nation, your sales pitch on hiring 8. But I mean, what else? I mean, outside of, you can talk about him, but also tell me some of the other guys you kind of like for the job, and who would have been on your list from the very start that maybe isn't on the list and you're surprised wasn't on the list.
Yeah, I got a list written down right here.
Awesome.
Yeah, and even before we go into that, like, I know, like, defending him, and like, I'm pissed. Like, I'm pissed. I'm just like pissed at the fact that, you know, he's gone, right? Like, I'm not mad at him for leaving. I think, you know, I keep saying, but he's got to do what he's got to do. And everybody that I've talked to in my circle who played has kind of said the same thing. Like, damn, that sucks. But like, you know, he's got to, you know, whatever he's got to do, he's got to do. Like, he did a lot for me. And you see all the guys, the seniors, the leaders on this team, you know, the Ben Bryants, the Trey Tuckers, you know, thanks, coach, for everything. Like, wish you the best of luck, you know, I'm better for being coached by you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's any bad blood from the guys there. So, but it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. And moving forward, there's a couple names I got written down here. Obviously, you know, Gino's written down, and we can give you the whole pitch on that and why that makes sense and why, you know, I'd love to see that. Couple of other names that I had was I heard Matt Campbell's name was getting thrown around from the beginning. I haven't really heard much about that since then. I think Matt Campbell would be a perfect fit. Really liked him. I really liked him a lot. When I was going through the recruiting process, he was at Toledo. I know he's an Ohio guy. He's really respected. I don't know if he's already taken his name. Does he take his name?
Campbell's out.
Campbell's out. Well, I liked him. I think it makes sense, but Campbell's out. Tom Herman, you know, I know he took the FAU job. He's out.
Herman's out.
Herman's out. Brian Hartline. I know people talk about him. He's out.
Hartline's out.
I like Sean Lewis at Kent State.
He's very much in.
He's very much in. I like him. And I like Alex Golish. I hope I'm saying that right, at Tennessee.
Also in.
I like
or
him.
at least have not heard anything to suggest he's out. But
yeah.
you guys rocking 60 tonight.
I know. People are listening.
Let's go.
We appreciate you.
Do you feel like the list is underwhelming? Like what's left? I know they didn't pursue Tom Herman.
We talked about this earlier.
Okay.
How do you improve the list, Joe Matt?
No, it's hard. There's no. I mean, I know. I'm not.
It's not a great year on the carousel. Like there's not. It's not a year to go find a sexy name that's just hanging around. So everybody wants to bitch about my list. My job is just to provide what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And the reality is, what am I missing? What should be on there that's not on there, I guess, is the question, right?
Yeah. There's a name that, Joe, you mentioned that I loved, and I think Statty loved too, but not anybody said it. And it was your idea, so I want you to be able to talk about it.
The Garrett Riley thing from TCU.
Yeah.
He wasn't even, I don't think he was ever even mentioned. I'm surprised. I don't know why. I'm not saying he was going to be the right candidate, but I felt like it was worth an interview. I mean, he's obviously done a great job at TCU as the offensive coordinator. He knows the Big 12. He's recruited the Texas area. But I obviously understand we also need to continue to recruit this area, right? We want to continue to control that mile radius around Cincinnati. I don't think that has to go away because Fickell's leaving. But I don't know. It's just not, like Chad said, it's an underwhelming list. Like it's not because I don't think it's because anyone's not doing the right things. I just think ultimately there's not like a ton of good options. I did like Tom Herman. I know some people don't like Tom Herman. I mean, Tom Herman still had a winning record at Texas. I think Texas is a harder job than people think it is. He did a great job at Houston. He did a great job at Ohio State when he was a coordinator. So I thought Tom Herman would have been at least worth an interview. I don't think they gave him an interview. Chad would know better than us, but I don't think they gave him an interview.
Where'd he go again?
Florida Atlantic.
FAU? Yeah.
Yep.
No, I agree. I thought he would, decent candidate, but where was he at? Was he coaching this past season?
I don't think so.
I think he was he's like an offensive analyst somewhere in the NFL.
He wasn't coaching this past season.
He
He was
wasn't
a free
doing it.
agent, if you will.
Wow.
He was just
That's
vibing,
impressive.
dude.
Okay, can we talk about my other name that everyone's name is in prime time?
I want him.
Everyone wants prime, man.
I would be completely shocked if Deion Sanders was the next. It would be electric.
I don't think it's even going to be a possibility or a thing. But I thought, our man Jeffrey said that's why you just hire Deion for 2 years, then go again when he leaves. It's not a bad point. I think Deion would be able to attract talent recruiting wise, transfer portal.
Sure.
I think he could attract talent. I think, people, he's done a good, they were pretty disciplined this year. I watched a few Jackson State games just to kind of watch. They weren't they're a disciplined football team. I know he's got great coordinators around him. I'm sure he could get great coordinators around him at Cincinnati. I don't know how great of a coach he is, but he wasn't bad. He's got to be a decent coach to be winning the way he's winning at Jackson State. They're disciplined, they do their job, all that kind of stuff. But I was intrigued. I was hoping maybe he'd get an interview. I don't think it's going to happen, but I thought I'd at least bring that up, the one time I can on this podcast.
It would be fun. It would be fun to watch. And like you said, I'm sure he could recruit like hell, and it would be interesting to see how it goes. But I have a hard time picturing that as a fit. What do you think, Statty?
It's hard to picture him anywhere, though. I would counter that with, I think obviously it's hard for us because I think deeply we do want him. Who doesn't want Deion Sanders? just, that, like you guys said, draws a lot of attraction, a lot of attention. But I'll be surprised kind of wherever he goes. I think if that list of the 3 schools is true, I don't see how he doesn't end up at South Florida. I know we talked about that a little bit, but no, that would be incredible. I mean, the guy got College Game Day, went to Jackson State, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Dion puts asses in the seats. That's a fact.
Here's my other point on Dion. While I think the pool for coaches and who we're going to hire might be a down year, I think in the same regard, the Cincinnati job might be the best job open right now at this current moment in the country. And I know Colorado is open, but I think that's harder to recruit there than Cincinnati. I think especially going into the Big 12, I know it might take some time. I don't think we're going to win a ton of games next year, but I will say this job should be sought after. I don't know. I think it should be sought after by I guess as many candidates as possible for who wants a head coaching job. So I'm just kind of sitting back. I've been reading, obviously go read Chad's boards and stuff like that. He's got all the good scoop and the good information. But I guess I'm just kind of underwhelmed, and it's no one's fault. It's just the fact that there hasn't been this great pool. So I guess the excitement behind Dion gets me going, just because I'm like, why not? Why not try it out for a year or two?
Not only like the hole in the coaching position, but what do you expect just next year's team to look like? Not so much as guys leaving, but do you think a lot of transfers will be coming in? Is 3 going to be the guy week 1 next year? I know it's a long way away, but what do you think?
Before we even get to that, I just want to put it out there, like the sexy hire isn't always the best hire, right? I think everybody gets like the flashy names, like all this stuff. Like I think we've seen a lot of times in all realms of professional and college sports, the big name goes somewhere and it just doesn't work out. And so I want to put that out there that, if we bring in, it's got to be the right guy who can come in, has to obviously kill the interview. It seems like having ties to Ohio is something that's super important. Based on all the names that have been mentioned, they all, for the most part, have some tie to Ohio.
So you don't want Urban? You don't want Urban, Soppy?
I don't even want to go down that road. Is Urban in play? I haven't heard.
No, he's not in play, but I just wanted to talking about sexy hires. I just wanted to. That's another one that people on UC Twitter have been going on and on about this week. Like some people are like, give Urban a call, and there's like 10 replies underneath, like, you idiot. It's just that funny back and forth stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything more than anybody else does. I think it's just somebody who's got to be able to build off what we've done, establish the culture, and every coach is different and has a different viewpoint. And hopefully you got somebody who can kind of, mix in what we've been doing, what's made us successful, and then, bring his own flavor that he thinks is best for his team and what he wants that to look like. And
I think what I've been saying all week, Jake, kind of think what you're trying to get across is, we need a guy that can actually coach that's coming in here. Soppy, we've got experience under a guy who didn't give a shit about, football at all and wasn't even at practice, like, to a guy who is running individual drills for every position that's on the football field. So I think that was a big change for us in the shift of the culture. So I understand the flair of what these coaches did as players, what they could do as recruiters, but I think as a head coach, you need somebody that can be hands-on and is coaching just the scheme and the philosophies of football more than just, I understand recruiting is big, but if you can't, develop players, then I don't know if the head coach role is the right spot.
What about somebody who's like already familiar with the culture, familiar with the guys, like familiar with the city, has shown to be able to like develop 2-star and 3-star guys in the NFL draft picks. What if we could who's a great recruiter? What if we could find a guy like that, Joe? Do you know where we could possibly find somebody who meets all that criteria?
Hey, I'm going to start with this, okay? And it might be a little bit long.
The players absolutely love, who the recruits absolutely love.
Would you say they're getting shown love all over Twitter recently?
Like maybe even current players are hyping them up. Maybe even post players are talking about how much of an impact he had on them and how, he did so much in their development. If we could find somebody like that, that would be awesome.
I think you got to ask Nine who we should have, who he'd want to have.
Yeah, we should probably hire whoever Desmond Ridder wants us to hire, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was so good, so.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Joe?
I mean, I get it from your guys' perspective. I think we're heading into the Big 12. I don't think this is the AAC anymore. I think it's going to take a really, really good football coach to get us back on track. I don't think with what we have right now, he's just going to step in and win next year because the culture is going to remain similar in some ways. Has he done enough, like as a coach and as a coordinator? Now I know as a head coach, we've talked about this over text this week, creating culture, all that kind of stuff. He obviously gets the culture. He loves Cincinnati. If he's the guy, I will root like hell for him every single week. I will not root against him one time. Just in the same way of every UC coach, you're going to root for them as long as they're here. But I don't know. I don't know if he's done enough or to be the next head football coach taking us into the Big 12, if he's ready for that. That's a big task, dude.
What's your criteria for somebody who is ready to be a head coach?
Do you need somebody who's already been a head coach?
I think you made a great point earlier. Like, you kind of convinced me, to be honest. I was kind of on the Heartline train, and you kind of convinced me to get off the Heartline train. Just because I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, if we're going to hire Heartline, we might as well hire Gino. He's already got the locker room. So they're not going to hire Heartline now, right? And I think you convinced me to take Gino over Heartline. I don't necessarily want the offensive coordinator from Tennessee or the defensive coordinator from LSU, right? Like, if you're going to hire another coordinator, I'm kind of all on board with just hiring Gino too. I don't think the list is superb. Like I said, it's kind of underwhelming at times, but I kind of want someone with head coaching experience, someone who's proven they can win, they can call a game. I think that's important going into the Big 12, that they can build a program as a head coach. That's kind of what I'm looking for, but I get where you guys are coming from. Like, he's a Bearcat legend. Everyone loves him. I love him, right? Like, I don't think he did a great job calling plays the last 2 years, but I also think you guys can give us more insight into that. And I also think if he gives the play calling over to someone else and just as a head coach and a culture builder and a program leader, and you guys think he can do that, I trust you guys. You guys were in the locker room. You watched him, so you would know. But sometimes players don't always know what's best too. I think we got to admit that as well. Like, while you guys think that and every player thinks that, sometimes that isn't always what's best too. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that that's been something in the past historically with other programs,
Worked out for Notre Dame.
Kind of. Not yet. Notre Dame's goal is to win a national championship. They hated Brian Kelly for going 11-1 or 12-0 and losing to Alabama in the national title game. The goal there is to win national championships, not go 8-4. He hasn't proven anything yet. Like, I get he beat Clemson, an okay Clemson team, but he hasn't proven anything yet, in my opinion. So that's still to be determined.
Yeah. And I think, we talked about, like, people, like leaving UC and going for different jobs and whatnot. And I think this is Gino's dream job. I really do. I don't think this is would be like, oh, I'm going to do, like, I think this, if he was the head coach and he could be the head coach forever, I think he would. Because, I mean, he's born and raised here. He played here. It means, a lot to him. The guys in the room love him. I know he's a great football mind, and he recruits people really well, just because I think he's really somebody who's really easy to relate to. I, I was recruited, and like you hear a lot of different things, and people tell you a lot of different shit and stuff, but there's not a whole. I mean, it takes a lot in that industry to just kind of say it how it is and be real with a kid. And he's always done that with me, and he's clearly done that with a lot of the guys in that locker room and guys that he's recruited and stuff. And people respect that dude. And obviously, selfishly, I'd love to see him be the head coach. Like I just would. That would be awesome. And I think he definitely has the respect of the locker room and the guys there. And has been there since we've had success and kind of knows what it takes and whatnot. And he's probably learned a lot from Fick, just like everybody's been under him and stuff like that. So obviously, I would love to see him be the guy. But I have no idea. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows.
What about? I mean, I know people are just going to get mad, but if we're going to talk about Gino, why aren't we talking about Kerry?
Yeah.
I know Kerry is an extremely good motivator. Like extremely good. If you ever like listen to him talk, like he can motivate. I mean, he can motivate anything. I mean, I honestly, he's a great motivator. I think he cares deeply about the kids, the players. I think he cares deeply about this city and this university. I think he's always wanted to be a head coach in college football. I'm not saying he's a better candidate than Gino, but I mean, if we're going to talk about Gino so much, why are people not talking about Kerry? I guess that's like also something I
don't know. You look at his most recent years coaching, he's kind of been hopping around a lot of different places, and I think he's going to want to be with Coach Fick. That's my opinion. I think he's stepped up for the staff to be that interim coach, just because, like you said, he is a great motivator, has passion for the game, and probably loves the heck out of the football team that he's got. But I just see him finishing out the year and then going and headed to Wisconsin.
Yeah. What's this, like, my question for you guys too, and I think this is fair to bring up. Like, this job is not the same job as it was in 2016 when Coach Fickell got hired. No. That's what I think I'm kind of frustrated with. And once again, I know, like, it's not like there's a ton of guys out there we can just go get that might be interested. But I guess that's what's frustrating. Like, this job isn't the same job as it was in 2016. I feel like we're about to hire the type of guy we would have hired in 2016. And obviously that worked out well for us last time. It could work out well for us again, right? Like, but I also think we need to think about, are we hiring the best candidate? Like, we have to, like, we got to trust that. I guess we got to trust that John Cunningham's going to hire the best candidate, hopefully. I don't know. I mean, he's the one in the rooms talking, having those conversations. That's a hard thing to figure out, but we won't know probably for a few years, knowing what we know going into the Big 12 and what we're going to have next year. But that's something I've been thinking about.
I completely agree, Joe. I mean, when Fick was coming to take over, it was, we're 4-8, our coach is yelling back at fans. Like, it just was a mess, right? There was no culture. We were simply a football team. That's all it was. And so I totally agree with you. It's a completely different job because so many of those guys in that locker room just have seen what the culture is. And I think being a guy maybe from a lower level school, or somebody doesn't have experience with a big time program and a well-run program, it is going to be hard to come in and win that locker room over when, you look at it, what was the record this year? We lost 3? 9-3.
Yeah.
So, it felt like a down year because things felt off all year long. And we have this, standard of just not losing, or losing 1 or maybe 2 games. So over the last 3 years, and I think, this is considered a down year, but we still win 9 football games. And I just think anybody from the outside is going to have trouble winning over the standard in the program that was set by Coach Fick versus, that year Tubbs left. It was almost like a thank goodness that guy's gone out of everybody. Sopko, I don't know if you can attest to that or
like you said, like we went through a coaching change. Like we were there. We were here for this coaching change, and it was. I think we've talked about it before, but anybody who doesn't know, like it could not have been a more like 180 from Tuberville to Fickell. Like I'll always be grateful for Tuberville and his staff giving me a scholarship and bringing me to the University of Cincinnati. But it was like we did whatever we wanted to do. Like my high school program was more like run like tight knit than it was. Like we got to college and we were like, dude, this is like we're just running around doing whatever the hell we want. Like this is wild. Like, and then Fickell came in. It could not have been more of a 180, like just culture change and getting people to buy in and make it so hard that people that weren't going to buy in were getting ran out. And that's just kind of how it was. And that's what I saw was, establishing a culture and then getting people to buy in. Like that's what we didn't have great players in 2018, 2019. And guys, were developed from good coaching and then obviously get bigger recruits and whatnot. But the reason we were any good that, we weren't good in 2017, but a lot of guys didn't, buy in. And then 2018, I don't think we had great talent, but people just bought in the culture and we were gritty and we won by just running the football, right, and playing good defense. So I just think that the biggest thing is just being able to establish that culture, and it's a hard thing to do. It's hard anywhere, no matter it's at Cincinnati, if you're taking over a MAC program or you're taking over like a high school program. Like I think that's the biggest factor, and it's hard to do. And the guy who's coming in here is put in kind of a shitty spot because we're going to the Big 12, right? And if it's not an in-house hire, I'm sure there's gonna be more people transferring and hitting the portal and all that. That's a tough thing to deal with in today's world. So it's going to be a challenge for whoever, takes over. But
and just to continue, like I don't think it's going to be a struggle because the guys won't buy into the new coach, but it's being exposed to someone who was as great as Coach Fickell was, like being able to see firsthand just how well oiled of a machine he had that program running, and then maybe seeing a guy come in who maybe he doesn't have to do the exact same thing. Obviously, he has to run his own program, but maybe does things not as efficiently or as great as as Coach Fick did. I can see guys being hesitant to buy in on that aspect.
I think the biggest thing, I know, I went on a whole rant about culture but like whoever comes in or whoever it is, establishing what it is that they want their program to look like and what is the culture and the pillars of the program. And then, you got to get your leaders on the team to buy in. That's the biggest aspect. So if you can get those guys who are going to be seniors next year, get them to buy in, like sit down with them, make sure they understand, why this is important. And then those guys are the ones who lead and it trickles down, right? That's the good teams that we've been a part of. That's kind of how it worked. It was the Josiahs, the Desmonds, the Garrett Campbell, like all these guys that were great leaders. And it started with them, right? It started with them. And then, the younger guys buy in and it trickles down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just going on like a whole rant now. Who even knows what the hell we're talking about? What else do you got for me, Joe? Who do you want them to hire? Who do you want them? If you were John Cunningham, who would you hire?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, obviously, I want Prime. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't, but I know that's just a dream. It's not going to happen. So I personally want, like I said, I kind of want someone with head coaching experience. But if you're going to hire a coordinator at this point, just go ahead and hire Gino. Like, if you're going to hire a coordinator from another school, you might as well keep some of these recruits together, keep the culture together at some point, and just. But my thing is also, is Gino going to have good assistants around him? It's not like he's been around a ton of different places where he knows a ton of people. Like, some of these other coordinators might know a lot of people. I think the coordinators matter. Your coaching staff matters. Chad, what do you got, brother?
I've got an interesting scenario, Joe Matt.
Okay.
Get my mic over here. Got my new, if you're looking for a Christmas present, got my new fresh black Bearcat Journal hat ready to go. 513shirts.com. You just go into drop down under partners. You can get the red.
Tell him Statty sent you.
It's a good plug.
You can get the red. You can get the black.
Good merch plug.
I want to know what this guy's got.
Alex Golish. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
UCF has gone away from what made UCF, right? Alex Golish was their offensive coordinator prior to that Gus Malzahn coming in.
Yeah.
What's your take on potentially going to the Big 12, stealing UCF's identity, and becoming that, pass happy spread, throw it all over the place, still have a good running game? Like, I think Golish is interesting for that alone, right? Like, just rubbing it in UCF's face. This is what you used to have. Now we took it from you, and now we have it.
No, I think it's a fair point. I do. I mean, I think he's really good. I agree with you. I think he's good. I do like him. I think after you saying that, I like him more probably now than I did before. No, that does sound good. I think there's going to be whoever it's going to be, there's going to be some growing pains the first few years. So
what about Sean Lewis's beard? Do we have any feelings on Sean, or the fact that Sean Lewis is 6'7"?
Yeah.
Didn't he recruit you, Soppy?
Yeah. I've met him a couple times. He was at BG, I think, when I was getting recruited. I liked him a lot. He's got a great beard. He's got a Josiah DeGuara-esque beard, and he's tall as shit. Yeah, I liked him. Not because of that. Like, he was a good guy, and like I think he knows how to coach football and whatnot. But
he's the guy at Toledo.
I always appreciate a great beard.
Kent State.
Kent State.
Kent State.
So Soppy, let's say hypothetically, and I think I have nailed down that Sean Lewis is one of the finalists. There was a lot of smoke behind Golish today. I have not confirmed that he's a finalist. The only one so far that I know I'm really confident that's getting an interview, like an in-person interview, so far is Sean Lewis. Let's say I give you a final three of Sean Lewis, Alex Golish, Gino Guidugli.
Yeah.
Do you feel good about that final three? You know all three of those guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know who else. Who else would you? It's a tough question. I think you.
I'm not asking who you take. I'm asking if I give you that final three and tell you that offense going into the Big 12 was kind of the thought process, the focus, and those are the three guys that you get to pick from. Not who are you picking? Do you feel good about the final three? Is the question.
If we're talking about offense, yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, like, I would feel good about it, especially if you want to talk about the Golish thing. I mean, he's going to win assistant coach of the year, right? Whatever the title is for that, probably.
Their offense was unbelievable until
unbelievable.
Even when Hendon Hooker got hurt, it was still good.
Exactly, and there's something to be said about that. So that would be exciting as hell if he gets in to see what he implements. I think if you want to go into the Big 12 and that's what you want to do, that's how you win in that league, is you put up 50 points a game. Then I would think people would be excited about that. And I think, Gino's an offensive mind. He clearly knows this team and this city and what it takes to recruit here and all that. So that's exciting. And then, Sean Lewis, I don't really know. I know Kent State's been really good. They've had really good offenses. I think they're like.
It's a Kendall Briles, Dino Babers.
Yeah.
Kind of air raid type deal.
I think they're decent this year. Yeah. I understand why fans would be like, oh, because they're not. I don't think any of those are like super sexy names to the common fan. But I think if you want to talk about offense, and that's, what's the big push into the Big 12, I think you got to feel pretty solid about those.
Is he the head coach at Kent State?
Yeah.
And they're in the MAC, right?
Yeah.
And they're not in the conference championship game.
This year they had a little bit of a dip. He
I
is
just don't,
in
I
the
don't,
MAC. In the MAC, he's 18-10. Statty. Kent State is the worst job in America.
Probably.
Yeah,
They are.
He sounds a lot like a NKU basketball coach we hired a couple years ago.
No, not even close. Statty, let me tell you
He
this.
does.
How,
It's from a mid-major. I don't care.
Kent State, in the entire history of the program, has played in 4 bowl games.
Okay.
He's coached them to 2.
That's a good job.
Half of their bowl games, and they haven't won 6 games more than like 4 times in the entire history of the program, is what that's telling you. And this guy's done it twice. He's got the only bowl win in the history of the program.
It doesn't make me him want. Okay, so
Okay,
we want that guy to come to Cincinnati.
I want you to do,
He's
something else.
He's got a sick beard like Statty too.
Sick beard, and he's 6'7". I want you guys to do something else. Homework assignment. Go look at the coaches in the Big 12 and where they came from. One job prior to the Big 12.
I mean, Dice is from SMU. I would have taken an SMU coach over. And
you guys beat the absolute shit and embarrassed SMU every time you played them.
Yeah, because
that's the guy you want running your program. A guy that had his team that was soft as shit every time you played him.
All right, man. All right, cool. Anyways, I don't want another John Brannon coming in here stinking up the joint, and now we have to play reset. Fuck that.
What about this? Let's throw it back.
Brian Kelly came from the MAC.
BK came from Central Michigan. So I think
that's so long.
But I agree with you. It was a different job at the time than it is now.
2007.
He's not interested in hearing anything
about a Kent State. You're going to argue a Kent State head coach. I know. I don't want to listen to that.
What about this? Here's a good point. What about this for you two? Okay. Gino, I think people could say probably the same stuff about Gino, couldn't they? The list just isn't out. The list just isn't, like Sabi said, just isn't sexy. So we're just gonna have to trust that he hopefully picks the right guy. I mean, it's just, it's puzzling. I mean, I'm hoping they get the right guy, but we won't know until probably Sunday. That's when we'll know.
That's what everybody's saying.
Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday is what allegedly it is.
They got to get it done.
We'll know soon enough.
They got to get it done Sunday.
I think they'll have a decision by Sunday. So live in-person interviews tomorrow and Saturday. Decision Sunday, but you can't announce it Sunday.
You can't.
Are you going to compete? Are you going to put your head coaching hire up against Bengals Chiefs?
It's also the Lord's Day, brother.
Bengals Chiefs at 4:25. You can do
basketball at noon.
So you're going to announce it on Monday?
Do they play NJIT again?
No, they play Bryant, who just beat Syracuse.
Oh, we're gonna never mind. Positive train. Let's go Bearcats.
So it's not. It wouldn't be during the basketball game. You wouldn't think, and then that goes right into Bengals Chiefs. So I would think a logical either it leaks out Sunday morning before the basketball game, or it leaks out Sunday night after the Bengals game. Press conference on Monday.
Wait.
Right.
You don't think they would announce it in the morning and then have him come on the court at during the game?
Depends on situation, maybe.
What if they're done?
I think the problem there, Statty, would be
the
problem there would be negotiations. Is the contract signed? If you pick the guy Saturday night, do you have the contract signed by 1:00 Sunday? That would be where I'm just not sure of
that makes sense.
It's a great idea. Hopefully you get it done Saturday afternoon. You do the negotiate, but I don't know what the interview schedule is.
Yeah, that's
I couldn't say for sure.
That's a good point.
I just know you don't want to compete with Bengals Chiefs because nobody in this town is going to give a shit once 4:00 Sunday hits.
What about here's my thing, and I know you're going to be on board with this, Chad. When they hire prime time on Sunday,
I'm in.
You think he'll be wearing Bearcat gear and they'll announce him midway through the Chiefs Bengals game Sunday, the place erupts in Paycor Stadium?
No, I don't think that would ever happen.
Safi, look at you, dude. You're like that'd be awesome.
The Bengals don't give a shit about the Bearcats. I'll tell you that, Joe.
You're right.
Oh, I'll tell you that right now. But look, here's the other thing I said. The only reason I don't think it's prime time, that's not John Cunningham. That's not. Sappy and Statty can attest to this. That's not his personality, and it's not it's just That's someone you have to work with every day. The head football coach is the most important job in the university. Would I hire primetime? You're damn right I would. Would Mike Bone have hired primetime? Mike Bone would have had the fake chains on and the sunglasses and the do-rag. Like, he would have been primetime. Like, he would have gone to Jackson State and like he might have walked there to hire primetime. I just don't think it's John Cunningham. I don't think in a working relationship, I don't think they cross. I wish they did. I wish it was a different, but it's like any other profession. More often than not, you hire someone that is aligned with your vision, the way you see the direction of things going. I just don't. I don't see it, unfortunately. And Joe Matt, I wish that we did, because look, man, that would make me a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders, head coach at the University of Cincinnati. I would. I'd have a money printer.
You might retire in the next 2 years if he.
He would be here 2 years, and I would retire. I'd sell Bearcat Journal to somebody. I don't know who it was, but I'd be on a beach somewhere. I'd have a money printer right here behind me. Just
tell him Soppy sent you to the beach.
Right.
Yeah. So, do you? I know a lot can change in the next couple of days, and they're supposed to be having in-person interviews and whatnot. Are you allowed to say what your gut's telling you right now, or are you keeping that close?
I don't have one, because my job isn't to like have a gut or guess, or job's to cover. Yeah. So I have to keep myself, and I've learned that over the years doing these. Like, when you get emotionally invested, you see it. You don't see it as clearly. So I can't have a favorite. I can't like pick. I have to just, where does the information take me? Follow that, get to the finish line. And then when we get to the finish line, I'll have all kinds of fucking opinions. I have more opinions you can shake a stick at. But I just don't think it's healthy in the moment, because I found myself doing this. Like, when you think back on searches past, then you start looking for confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Like reports that align with what you're thinking, people that align with what you're thinking, and you lean towards those. And then when you get to the finish line, usually you're wrong. And that defeats the whole purpose of the work that you did during the search, because the entire job is to get it right. Right? Like, get to the finish line with the right answer. That's what my job is all about. So I like the idea of going offense. I think going defense into that league, I don't know that you score enough points, especially initially, until you have your bearings and you figure out, like, okay, this is how we stop the Texas Tech offense. This is how we stop the Baylor offense. Like, how do we recruit and position to stop all of these things? I think the best answer is just go out and score as many damn points as you can. And, look at Iowa State this year. Matt Campbell is defense first, right? Like, he's a hardcore defense guy. He lost 7 games by 1 score because they just didn't have an offense that could put up enough points to keep up.
Speaking of offense, why do you think the name that Joe Matt was talking about hasn't been touched? Because he has no Ohio ties, the Garrett Riley?
The thing there that was interesting to me, and this was a conversation I had with Dave that does the BCJ podcast with me. Why wasn't there any other interest for him in this cycle? Like Texas State and some of those like schools down in the Southwest. And maybe it's because he didn't have any interest. Like, maybe he's making, and that's the weird thing about college football now, Joe Matt, is that you can make so much more money as a coordinator at a place like TCU. Like, Sean Lewis, I think, is making $455,000 as a head coach in the MAC. Brian Hartline's making $900,000 as a wide receiver coach at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So you don't have any reason to drop down to that level. I wonder if it's just age and experience for Garrett Riley. Like, I think it's coming. It doesn't feel like there's many people in the industry that think he's ready. And maybe that's an error on their part, but it's, you know how that stuff is, man.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is like, Garrett Riley's in the mix at Colorado, right? And then everybody's like, oh shit, well, Colorado's interested, then maybe we should. Like, sometimes it's just as simple as that. I see it with recruiting all the time. All of a sudden a kid gets a mid-level Power 5 offer. Yeah. Well, no, the Arrington Page thing was more everybody was flocking to see Isaiah Collier.
And they just found out about him.
And then they saw Page and how much he had improved over the past year. But to that point, like after the first offer, everybody else is comfortable. Okay, now we can jump in. Yeah. So there is some of that, of course. But I wonder if that's kind of the thing with Garrett Riley. Is it just he hasn't had that first team jump yet, or at least put him in their final 3 and he gets the in-person interview to kind of push him forward. Because there just wasn't, as I was doing, he was a name that was on my list to vet. And you just didn't get the feeling that he had kind of advanced to that point yet where people were really talking about him as like a serious head coaching candidate.
Yeah.
So the people you're hearing, just to recap, is Gino, Carey, Golish, and
Sean Lewis.
Well, I'm not giving away the whole hot board, Soppy. That's how I make money. You got to go to bearcatjournal.com for hot board 3.0. Yeah. But I brought a couple names so that I could further the conversation here on the Rock of Truth. You guys got a big crowd in here tonight? Like,
I know. I'm trying to give them some good information.
What's
I know. 50% off bearcatjournal.com right now for a whole year. Just go to the website and hit join. You can get 50%.
Statty, Soppy. I know. Okay, I want to ask all 3 of you real quick. If you had to pick, I know you 2 want to pick Gino. If you didn't pick Gino, who would be your pick?
Prime time. I told you that.
If I didn't pick Gino, I would take Golish.
Okay.
Same. I like Golish.
I mean, I love Prime. You guys know that. But I like Golish too.
I like Sean Lewis a lot too. I know Statty is ready to punch me in the face because he doesn't.
Statty's out on Shawnee Lewis.
He's out.
If there's a guy 6'7" with a good beard on campus, I might have to hire somebody to tackle him or something. Smuggle him until the weekend.
Look, I like the Bryles offense.
No, I'm sure he does a great job, but I think how Joe's talked about, it's just so much of a different hire now than it was when we got Fickell that I just think bringing in a guy who's not even in his own conference championship game is a step back.
I would also say, guys, I'm not putting out a top 3.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation. I just asked Soppy as an offensive guy. Those are 3 names in the mix.
Yeah.
Would you be happy as an offensive guy if those 3 were the list you were looking at?
Now,
I did
Chad,
not in any way, shape, or form say that was my top 3. So calm down, everybody.
Chad, I'll bring this up though, and I'll back you on this. During the basketball hire, we talked about a million different names. Then all of a sudden, like on that last few days, all of a sudden Wes Miller's name popped out in nowhere. So, I mean, do you think there's a possibility some name comes out of nowhere potentially, or not really in this cycle?
Well, I've talked about this before. It wasn't out of nowhere.
They just kept it quiet.
No, I've mentioned this story before. I don't want to tell the whole thing, but essentially what happened was I had somebody close to Wes Miller's staff. I was tracking Wes Miller, and they told me Wes, before he really gets serious with the job, he meets with his whole staff and informs them, this is what's going on. I'm going to interview, I just, to make sure everybody is prepared. So I was tracking Wes Miller, and I knew this about every time Wes Miller had interviewed for a job. And I was waiting on my source to call me and tell me that this meeting had happened. And it never happened. So when Wes Miller got hired, I was like, dude, true or false, you did this every time you were involved in a job, and you didn't do it with Cincinnati. he said, how the hell did you know that? And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at this. And he's like, I just came off the North Carolina job because he finished second to Hubert Davis in the North Carolina job. And he was like, I didn't want to put that stress on my staff like 4 days later that I had just come off the North Carolina job. Now Cincinnati's interested. I didn't want to like stress them out again, that same week. So I didn't have the meeting. I just went and did the interview with John Cunningham. If you would have done the meeting, I would have had it nailed. But because the meeting never happened, in my mind,
it wasn't as serious.
Then he's not doing the thing that he has always done.
Yeah.
So it can't be as serious as some people are saying that it is. Boy, luckily I got it right at the end and got him on there in version 4 and version 5 of the hot board. But I should have had it earlier. Wes screwed me over on that one. I've let him know I wasn't happy about it.
Is Jesse Minter out?
He is not a name that I felt gained any traction. I think a lot of that is one, he wants to be in the NFL.
Yeah, so he doesn't like recruiting.
That's two. He's not a guy that enjoys the recruiting aspect, and in this day and age, you can't have a coach that wants to half-ass his part of the deal on recruiting. You guys know Fick was all in on recruiting. He had meetings with Pat and Max every day. Like he was dialed in on every kid they were recruiting, the family. He knew everything about them. Like that was a huge part of his success. You can't win if your head coach isn't an ace recruiter.
Soppy, if Gino gets the job, are you going to quit the Rock of Truth and go become the quarterbacks coach at the University of Cincinnati?
Gino, my phone is open if you want to give me a call to be the
better watch out, Pike.
That's quite the upgrade from where I was.
Pike might be coming for you. Maybe Caleros retires. He's coming back.
If Cunningham wants to offer me the head coaching job, I will accept it. I will leave the Rock of Truth. I will throw my name into the mix right now. Put it out there. I will accept.
You'll hire Statty as a defensive coordinator.
Statty will be my defensive coordinator. Joe, you'll be my recruiting coordinator because I know you'd be great at that.
Like Pat Lambert.
Yeah.
Look, Soppy, if you don't hire Logan Meyer, he might come find you.
He can work under Joe.
Okay.
They can work together.
He's the recruiting coordinator at Auburn now. Maybe you hire Logan and then Joe is like the Max to Logan's Pat.
Maybe. We'll see. I don't want to get all my secrets until my interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're giving away your card.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep you'll keep Carey, you'll keep Walt.
Yeah, I'll keep Carey as my DC. Anybody who played at the University of Cincinnati, if you want to be on my staff,
you got a spot.
You got a spot.
Hey,
D'Lo, go get D'Lo.
I'll bring Armand back to the receivers coach.
Soppy will never have to worry about me leaving the University of Cincinnati and taking another job. You won't. You know that's true, though. You never. That's part of why I'm so mad at Fickell. Like I'm just trying to find a guy that loves this university the way I love this university. You know,
that's why
I don't think you're ever going to find that.
It's going to be hard. But one can keep dreaming. I've kind of stopped the dream. The dream's I've given up on the dream.
There might be one already.
Dreams, kid.
There might be already one in the building, Joe. And he's your least favorite.
No, he's. Listen. If he gets the job, once again, I will be in section 110 next year, and I will get a number 8 jersey and wear it. Okay, I will get a number 8 Gino Guidugli custom-made jersey and wear that thing to the games next year. If he gets it.
#hire 8 on the back.
Yes,
I might as well do that too.
Can we get that on your forehead?
A tattoo.
Neck tat. #hire 8.
Tongue tat.
I mean, these other coaches that have left us, but by this point, I've just become accustomed to even thinking, even if 8 gets a job in 3 years, he'll be out. You know, like someone will offer him $9 million, $10 million, he'll be gone. I mean,
You guys need me, or can I tag out here? I want to give it back to you guys.
You're good.
Daddy's been giving me the side eye for half an hour now. So.
I need the golden flashes energy out of here.
No, listen. Can I say something real quick? Can I just give like a background story?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit off page. Okay. I feel like we've had some good energy tonight, but ultimately, like this Fickell thing, like this is, in my opinion, it's bad timing. It's horrible timing, and I think that's probably the hardest part. Is like we've talked about, the coaching carousel is a little bit underwhelming this year. We know Cunningham's not going to hire Prime. Right? Like there's not going to be some huge splash in the next hire. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. But like for someone like me, as a lifelong Bearcat fan, like I'm trying to put you guys in my shoes here. Like, so my great grandfather was a professor at the University of Cincinnati. Okay. My grandfather ended up being on the board that hired Bob Huggins. He ran a hotel downtown where he hosted all the away teams. So that's how he kind of got connected back in the old days, was when he would run these hotels. If like when the Conference USA and the Midwest Conference opponents would come in, they'd stay at his hotel, right? So like my mom grew up, my grandma and my mom and her siblings and all her cousins, like all my aunts and uncles, they grew up like loving Bearcat sports, right? And this is when Bearcat sports are not good. Like we have to like, Bearcat football was bad. So my parents were going to Bearcat football games before. There was a thing back in the day when Huggins was here where in order to get basketball tickets, you had to buy football tickets in order to get basketball tickets, right? Like just to look at how big Cincinnati football has grown in the last 20 to 25 years. There was a time 20 plus years ago where you'd have to buy football tickets in order to get basketball tickets when Huggins was there back in the heyday of the Jordan era, right? So this was like a thing. So I grew up like, I'm born a Bearcat, right? I'll die a Bearcat. Like there's nothing that can change that for me. And it doesn't matter like what happens, what goes on. I'm always going to be a Bearcat, a loyal Bearcat. I'm going to support the players, support the coaches. I'll say, my piece if I think someone plays bad or a coach doesn't do this right or that right. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to keep supporting those people. But I think what bothers me and what frustrates me is growing up a Bearcat fan. We've seen this over and over and over and over. And I think for some reason, some odd reason, I probably shouldn't have believed it. We started to believe the fact that like Fickell, he was going to stay, right? Like he loved this place. And until Ohio State came open, this was the job. He wasn't going to leave this place. He was going to grow it to be what he thought it could be. He told us all this BS, right? And we started to buy into it and believe it. I'm not saying he didn't ever believe that. But that's what hurts. So as a Bearcat fan and from the fan base, from myself, that's what hurts. I think it's like this idea that we actually, for some reason, started to believe for once, man, we might have actually found someone that appreciates us, appreciates this place. And I think it just all got torn to shreds in the matter of minutes on Sunday afternoon. And I think it's going to take a long time to process. So that's where I'm at. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. I'm upset. And I'm hurt.
Yeah. No, I get that, Joe. I get that, and I feel for you. Clearly, you're hurt. I think we're all hurting. I just hope that we can find somebody who has that same love for the university and has just, Cincinnati roots, and it means something more than him. If we could find somebody like that to take over this program.
And we've got loyal Bearcat fans in the comments here. We got Leiter. We got JD. I mean, look at these guys. They're lifelong Bearcat fans. They blood, sweat, tears into this thing. They're upset. They're hurting. It's gonna be hard for Asabi to root for the Badgers. I'm just telling you that, man.
I'm not saying you need to go root for the Badgers, dude. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm hurt. I'm sad too. It sucks. I'm a Bearcat. I was a Bearcat before he got here. I'm always gonna be a Bearcat. That's my alma mater. I've had the best years of my life, thus far have been at that university. I'll always love it and I'll always root for us. And I just, obviously I want Gino to be the coach selfishly because my relationship with him, I think he would do a great job. But, whoever they hire, I hope he comes in and does a great job and, takes us to where this university can be. And I'll always have, respect for Fickell for a lot of reasons and whatnot. And I'm going to root for him. And, at Wisconsin, but I'm a Bearcat at the end of the day, heart, in my heart. And I want us to do well, whoever it is. So I get it. I get that it sucks. I don't disagree with that. I just don't want people to forget, like what we were able to accomplish the past couple of years and the big reason why a lot of that was accomplished.
For sure.
For sure. What do you guys got any like parting thoughts or anything to give to Bearcat Nation?
At the end of the day, Jake kind of hit it a little bit. When you look back, initial thought of Brian Kelly is how he left before probably the program's biggest game to that date, arguably one, definitely a top 5. And I think when you look back on Coach Fick in a couple years, it's going to be, that's the guy that I was able to see, I was able to go see my team play against Nick Saban and Alabama and compete for a national championship position. So it sucks right now. It's easy to focus on the negatives with all these reports coming out of he said, she said, this happened, yada, yada. But, once the decision's made and once this mull's over, I think people are going to, settle down a little bit and change their perspective and really reflect and just appreciate, what Coach Fick brought. But I'm excited for the new change. It's exciting. I'm still, I was a Bearcat fan growing up before I was a player, and being on the other end and being coached under Coach Fickell, obviously it's hard to get too upset because I do understand. And like Soppy says, get it. He has to do what he's got to do. And, but Bearcat for life still. So wish him the best of luck, but I'm ready to see what's going to happen. Ready to see what shakes.
It's beautiful.
Next week, we're going to be talking about a new head football coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. That's crazy to think about. We would have never thought that a week ago, I don't think. Maybe you would have. I didn't.
Didn't have it on the bingo card.
No. I thought we were coming here and like talk about like Tulane stuff. Do you remember that? That was a game.
I thought we were going to talk about playing the UCF Knights at home on Saturday.
That game wasn't even a week ago.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Wow.
Thanksgiving was a week ago. The longest week of my life.
It doesn't feel like
AC Smith needs.
You're wrong, Aaron.
Needs a nap.
You're wrong. Thanksgiving was 26 days ago.
That's what it probably feels like.
Officially, 26 days ago. UC played in the Maui Invitational 6 weeks ago. It was 6 weeks ago that happened.
It's insane.
Crazy.
Every day right now feels like a week. It's ridiculous. I just want to sleep.
Hey, can I tell you a story real quick before we get off? Should I tell them the Danco story?
Can I tell you a story real quick before I get off? That's a loaded statement.
You'll think this is funny, okay? You weren't on here earlier. We were talking to Aaron, but Danco Joe, our guy, right? We love Danco. He called me. Danco called me like Sunday during the Bengals game, like to ask me like, what's going on, what's happening, right? And I was kind of like, I think he was looking for scoop. I'm not really sure, but I was like, man, you're gonna have to ask Chad. Like, I'm not that close into all this stuff yet, but it's just super funny. Like, I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
That's great.
People come to the Rock because we know what we're talking about, man.
Hey, look. You guys did a month's worth of like work tonight on the Rock.
Yeah.
You got a new audience base here tonight on the Rock.
We did a lot.
Great,
yeah, hopefully people come back. Hopefully they're like, I just listened to the Three Stooges and wasted an hour and a half of my life listening to those idiots. But hopefully some of them are like, oh, I kind of like their takes. It's interesting.
It's Thursday, right? We should sound decent.
Yeah, you're doing good. That's a great show. It's one of my favorite shows from you guys, aside from Statty wanting to stab me in the neck. But like other than that,
just with that golden flash, it's coming.
You guys got championship weekend gambling stuff?
We have to, right?
Let's throw that out there. I didn't even think about that because we
We
had
might
so much to
actually do.
talk about. Let's give some picks for some people before we
Go
hop
ahead
on.
and just run down the board. There's not a lot, right?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Can we get it popped up? Can we get it ESPN pulled up by chance? Just a slate.
I got it pulled up. Can I
This is
hold
awesome.
I've got my picks if you want me to take over here.
I'll
you guys see this?
let's go in order. Yeah, heck yeah, man.
All right. Utah versus USC.
What's it at?
-2.5 USC in Vegas.
No Tavion Thomas declared for the draft.
Is he not playing in the game?
No, that's what I'm saying. He declared for the draft.
I think he was hurt.
He did
So
something with
his
his
season was over.
thumb. I think it was his thumb. I saw he tweeted.
What do we
But-
got? I think
Trojans. Yeah, it's
Trojans. I like
Caleb
the Trojans.
Williams. Yeah,
I want them in the CFP. I think it's gonna be a good game, but I'm taking.
Hey,
You taking them to cover?
I'm gonna try and do a 6-leg parlay this week on the last college football weekend before bowl season. I'm gonna try and pick every championship game money line correctly, and we're gonna see what happens. Okay. I mean, I've gotten so many picks wrong. You might as well have fun with it on the last one. Here it goes. Okay. USC money line, TCU money line, Georgia money line, UCF money line, Michigan money line, and I'm gonna go with Clemson money line. So a lot of favorites there, but hey, trying to take some logical picks here, Statty.
Clemson's quarterback's so freaking bad.
Yeah, I know.
Statty, which one do you like? I know I'm just scrolling here.
I want to go through every game. I don't know why we skipped over the mid. I mean, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about
All right,
those.
North Texas UTSA.
Take one, Statty. Statty's
Roadrunners, UTSA, USC. What's that number? I can't see it.
2.5. TCU's -2.5.
I like the Horned Frogs. Go ahead. Give me the
Toledo.
Bobbies.
Toledo OU.
Bobbies.
+3.
They don't have their QB, but it's still been a good offense. Go Bobbies. Why not? Well, you skipped over NMSU. Yep.
I don't think that's an actual Coastal Troy.
Troy.
LSU Georgia.
Dogs. Been a big
-17.5. You taking the points?
Give me the points, yeah.
All right. Tulane UCF. Tulane
What's
-4.
that? Green. They don't have their coach. Fuck. Green Wave.
Fresno State versus Boise State. Boise State -3.
Fresno.
They have their coach. He didn't leave, by the way.
So
Willie
he's
Fritz is still at Tulane.
He's coaching. Wait, really?
Yeah, they hired internally. He couldn't take the job because he had the conference championship game. So they didn't lose him. He's still there.
Does he
Just want you to have all the information, Statty.
Thank you.
Hey, Chad.
Even though you want to stab me, I'm still here for you.
Does he
I
also
still took the Green Wave.
Chad, why is Cliff Kingsbury not a candidate?
Because he's not a candidate.
Someone tweeted at Chad today and said, "Why is Cliff Kingsbury not a candidate?"
What about Sean Payton? Why is his name getting thrown
No,
around?
they said, why is he not on the list? And I'm like, because he's not a candidate for the job. Because he's a candidate for the job, I'd have him on the list.
Because he's
Let
the
me
head
finish
coach
my
of
slate.
Arizona
Holy cow.
Cardinals. Stat, do
Like
you
today.
think Michigan's going to cover -17?
I don't. I think so. Purdue's quarterback, actually a horrible story, but he's playing for a little bit extra.
Mm-hmm.
Lost a family member. It's awful. So I'm gonna ride with the Boilermakers.
We're gonna be rooting for that guy this weekend.
The spoiler makers is what they call them, actually.
And then Clemson -7.5 North Carolina against North Carolina.
Oh my gosh, North Carolina can score, so they're going to score enough to win. I'm kind of been a Dabo doubter this year.
All right.
Anybody
I'm
write
not going
those
to go
down?
through all
You
of
write
this.
those down, Joe? Did you write those down?
Yep.
I'm not going to go through all that, but my lock of the week is Purdue plus 17. I liked it before you even told me that story, and now that's what I'm riding with.
I love it.
This was
Man,
good. This is an hour and a half. This is a lot longer than we usually go.
This was emotional.
Goodbye, Luke Fickell.
Emotional week.
Goodbye, Coach Fick.
Hello, 6'7" bearded Mac guy.
No. Joe, I will give you all my team issue gear if that guy gets the job.
Dude, I'm rooting for him to get the job.
You already got all of my team issued gear.
You can even have my bowl rings. You can have my helmet. You can have it all.
If he gets hired, honestly, can I actually have one of your bowl rings?
Yeah, you can. You can have the military bowl one.
Military bowl.
I'll wear it like every episode.
That's great. Gosh, please, John.
I like Sean Lewis. I think
he's probably going to get the job now. So there you go, Bearcat Nation.
Statty just broke the news to you.
Spoiler alert.
All right, fellas.
Well, yeah. Hopefully next week, we're talking about whoever the hire is and
prime time.
I'm excited for next Thursday.
Should be fun, man.
Hopefully all these new fans in here are back next week at 9:00 on Thursday night.
Well, we're gonna have a nice guest for him next week. Not gonna let you know who it is just yet. We'll you'll have to come back next week, find out. But
he'll be the next head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Just buckle up.
Just kidding. Maybe we'll see. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, boys. So if go Cats.
Hey, go Bearcats. We'll see you all next week.